Thank you, Mr. President and board and the community for coming back to this Budgeting for Equity presentation. You may recall I did a analysis of the current system in December and gave you my underlying values that led to, that were the conclusions of my analysis of RBB as it exists. I think that there is some general consensus that my data analysis was reasonable, and it did lead to some of the presentation that I'm about to give you today. Mr. President asked me to truncate the presentation some because in understanding that the format, the policy governance framework that the board adopted while I was still on the board separated out policy governance from implementation and so forth. And so this is really part of, as the president of the board said, my first cut at developing a reasonable interpretation of the policy that was adopted tonight. I just wanted to begin with just a comment, and I hope no one will be offended for this. But as you know, I was once a principal in Oakland, so I think I know how, and I was once married to a principal in Oakland, so we both knew how to advocate for our schools. What I am now is your superintendent, and my job is to advocate for your district. And so that's the underlying perspective that I take in this role as your acting superintendent. As you know, the district fast facts about who we are today and who we project to be next year includes a potential loss of about 200 students. The factor here on this slide that's important for you to notice is that we currently estimate that we will have a 74% LCFF percentage of unduplicated students who will contribute to supplemental and concentration funds. That includes English learners, foster youth, and low-income children in low-income situations. These are your value statements that you had just adopted, so I don't need to review them. But the one I want to highlight is to note number 5, that I need to provide the public accurate, timely, and easily comprehensible financial information system information at every school, department, and district level. Starting last Friday, we've established an LCFF budgeting tab on our website, and this presentation, as well as any other relevant document, will be posted there for you all to review and for the public to review. In addition, it has taken this long since the December meeting to prepare the budget development data for each site for the 14-15 year. I don't apologize for it. My staff has been working 24/7 to provide the most accurate information that would lead to intelligent and informed and transparent budget decisions at every site for the 14-15 year. It is my policy to always present site-based data to the principals of schools before I send it to the public, and that is my intention to do this coming Tuesday. And after that, the information will be available for review. I want to just identify 3 definitions that are coming out of LCFF. And before I begin talking about base supplemental and concentration monies, I had a long conversation today with our state trustee, Carlene Naylor, and she pointed out to me that unlike many of the public understandings of LCFF, LCFF is going to be more money over an 8-year period to 2021. But as you may know, the funding strategy only restores us back to a place where we were about 4 years ago. As a result, the amount of money that is allocated in the so-called base is insufficient to provide adequate resources.
If you'd like to make a call, please hang up and try again. If you need help, hang up and then dial your operator.
The base funding is actually inadequate to provide basic core resources for the district, for its infrastructure, or for our schools. So as a result, we must consider base, supplemental, and concentration monies all together and reallocate according to our priorities. Having said that, as you see, base means to provide basic costs of instruction and operations, supplemental for monies on top in students and categories, and concentration for students, for schools, districts, not schools, but school districts who have more than 55% of their population designated as high need. I want to emphasize in this slide that the definitions for LCFF refer to the school district, not to individual schools. So, how much money do we project we will receive? We're starting with a base of $255,525,597, which provided us an estimated $11.4 million increase, which is the money, by the way, that the district wrestled with last year. This coming year, for the 14 year, as you can see, that LCFF increase is rolled into the base, and we estimate, and the state trustee confirms, that we project about $15 million in additional funding beyond what we spend this year in core services. This projection, based upon a 74% LCFF calculation, estimated COLA, which is yet to be distributed, and does not include the governor's budget proposal to increase LCFF allocations. When that occurs on the website, I will put that up there. It is important for me, for the community, to be able to understand the information in as transparent, clear, and timely a way as possible. That is my commitment on item 5. That's been my history, and that's my commitment as long as I'm superintendent. This slide just simply tells you that our current estimate of the monies of $266 million is enhanced by $26 million in parcel tax money. Thank you, community, for passing the parcel tax. $5 million through state lottery, and then some other miscellaneous monies, which gives us a final amount, including EIA, of $294,800,000. So, according to the board policy that was just adopted, the board policy identifies 4 basic categories of funding, and which I, by the way, heartily endorse. Legally required district obligations, school site budgets, direct services at school sites, which are central office services, and the central office infrastructure. And in case you don't know, I am that central office infrastructure. So how does that look? We estimate that 5.8% is taken off the top to pay for our loan, our debt service, our audit findings, which are around $3 million a year, $4 million a year, maybe even more, charter pass-throughs and so forth. 87%, now 88%, the board wants to allocate to the school sites. That's divided between 2 categories: site discretionary site spending and central office services allocated to the sites, with a proposed central office infrastructure of 13%, now 12%. So I apologize for that slide. It will be changed before it goes posted. What does that actually estimated in the 13-14 year, this current year? The breakdown that we estimate is that school site budgets are $166,963,194, with central services identified to the sites of around $75,004,529. That makes up approximately 87% of the unallocated of expenditures to the schools, unrestricted. So, am I thinking about developing what I called a school-based budgeting system. Based upon the policy direction, the directives and the advice of the state trustee, and what I've learned that every other district in the school in the state of California does or intends to do is the following. Use LCFF funds, which is basically all the unrestricted state-based money, which used to be revenue limit money but is now all there. The first responsibility, as I stated in December, is to secure the base. That is, to fully fund staff and provide dependable and adequate discretionary budgets for each and every school dependent upon enrollment. That seems to me to be the core mission and responsibility of your superintendent, and that's what I intend to do, secure the base. Secondly, to provide additional dollars for supplemental and concentration monies, and this one is going to require some deliberate and intentional decisions at the local level to target students in the following categories. And I never call students low income. They live in low income families, but foster youth, English learners, and neighborhood conditions. I feel that our strategic plan, community schools, thriving students, demands that we consider neighborhood conditions in any kind of budgeting strategy that we use. Secondly, to use LCFF funds in the following manner by 2021, which is the anticipated full funding of LCFF. 80% of the money allocated to the base. It'll be there by 2021. It is not there now. 12% allocated to supplemental, 8% allocated to concentration. This is how it looks. The lower base is what we're talking about now. EIA funds and LEP funds and so forth remain the same in 2014-15. Supplemental funds are the ones, and concentration are the ones that will require extensive community engagement. And the fifth layer, Title I restricted funds, remains subject to the same federal regulations that exist now, minus those that we were able to obtain through the core waiver process. So, just in summary, this graph shows you that by 2021, we expect to have $60 million more every year in our budget for supplemental concentration, and our base will be secured. At the present time, our base cannot be secured with supplemental concentration money, so we estimate, as I said before, we have $15 million to consider for supplemental and concentration. My new proposal intends, as I said before, to follow the board's directive to maximize resources to the school sites. I intend to do that by fully funding schools at 100% of their enrollment by removing 88 percentages from the allocation formula. Secondly, I want to increase the discretionary funding to sites with regard to special education students who are at the school sites to 100% allocation for special ed students. Thirdly, I want to increase school site revenues and services from 85 to now 88% of the revenue for staffing and school services for the 2014-15 year. This is in greater detail. First, LCFF supplemental funds in the traditional way of looking at it for identified LCFF students. Secondly, concentration funds provided to schools with high environmental factors. Third, removing the balancing pool so that all schools are fully funded and fully staffed for required positions. And I want to add here, though, that simply removing the balancing pool does not provide equity, because all schools which required balancing pool money first needed to deplete their discretionary funds. I will not have that happen. Schools need discretionary budgets, and those discretionary budgets are in my proposal. They're not in any other proposal to eliminate the balancing pool. 4, remove complexity in the budgeting and the budgeting system and provide transparency to school sites around their budgets. When I became your superintendent, I realized that the complexity of RBB impeded our ability to get accurate budgetary information to make decisions. No one was hiding the information. No one could actually tell you at any particular time what our funding status is. That was confirmed by our state trustee, and that is one of the driving forces in this. We need to increase efficiency and effectiveness in our operations, and that requires a shift to what every other district in California does. Basically, fund staff to a formula and provide discretionary monies. Fifthly, maintain school site decision-making by the people who are closest to the students. This is what most school districts in California do not do. Most school districts in California allocate staff, and that's what you get is what you see. In Oakland, we have a tradition of school-based decision-making and community engagement. Our quality school development process and our site governance process would never allow, nor would this board, nor would the superintendent, allow for a lockstep, one-size-fits-all strategy for staffing our schools. Schools do need flexibility, but they need money to be flexible about. Many of our schools, especially our smallest schools and our most impacted schools, had no flexibility. They had to go to the balancing pool just to fundamentally staff their schools. That will not happen while I'm superintendent. Thirdly, this proposal that I am developing with my staff is student-centered, focused on quality and student outcomes. You as a board direct me to have quality standards for central office, and I certainly intend to replicate our school quality review program with our central departments as well. You will get an assessment and evaluation based upon feedback from sites about those services that central office delivers to the sites. That's part of what you asked me to do. That's part of what I intend. Finally, as I said to you, beginning today, you're going to be able to go to our website, ousdk12ca.us/domain/3220, or just find it under community items and find all the information that I have at my hands about budgeting decisions. So 3 quick questions and 3 answers. Will school site leaders and community maintain site-based decision-making? I think I said yes. Flexibility to choose services and design programs, however, need to be tracked, need to be demonstrated to be part of the community schools strategic site plan. They need to be focused on increasing student achievement. It's not about adults, it's about increasing student achievement. Secondly, the data to be used to increase students' achievement, you can see I'm pretty serious about. The data that I've been collecting and I've been presenting is focused on getting services to the neediest schools so that student achievement could grow. This is going to require accountability systems that have yet to be developed, but are in process this year. Thirdly, work with communities to ensure quality decisions for improved outcomes for children. LCAP, LCFF require this. We as a community require this. And we have a state trustee to check the numbers. And finally, and I'm going to just go back to this, the school plan is the key document, and the school governance process is the key document that will hold school sites accountable, and the district balance scorecard is what will hold the superintendent accountable. Secondly, question, what accountability structure will be in place to ensure greater equity and improved outcomes? We have talked about the budgeting priorities of LCFF, which drive our development of a local control accountability plan. That is in the works now. That requires site engagement, and it seems natural that that process will be meaningless unless site governance and site budget flexibility is in place. Secondly, we have local policies, and I want to just lift up from the bottom up. We have a district balance scorecard process, which very few districts across the state and across the nation have. We have a community school strategic site plan that we've just talked about. We have the schools-based budgeting process, which I'm in charge of developing for you. We have site governance policies, and we have school quality standards. Final question, is there an implementation plan and timeline? Yes. So what have we done to date? First of all, we have developed individual site budget development documents. As I said, on Tuesday, I intend to deliver these in our regional areas and take any questions so that principals themselves can see the numbers we are talking about. Much of the documentation that community and schools have had in the past were on the basis of questions that were asked of me to present before, such as comparing the scenario against RBB for the 13-14 year. We did not have a good estimate of the real dollars we have. Now we do. So school site allocation worksheets for both unrestricted and restricted dollars will be available to principals on Tuesday. Secondly, we're going to establish an accountability team that includes, but is not limited to, the Principals Advisory Committee. They're elected by their peers, and I met with them last week, and I invited them to be part of an accountability team. Secondly, community-based organizations. I've reached out to 3 community-based organizations, and I hope they accept the responsibility. Thirdly, I'm hoping that a board representative will be identified by the board to sit on that accountability team. And finally, there should be other stakeholders, such as our collective bargaining units and perhaps even our state trustee. Thirdly, I want a transparent budget development timeline with deliverables. You're going to start seeing that posted on the website. If you don't see it there, send me an email. Fourthly, we have now begun to develop a prototype for a budget development handbook that's based upon the values, the assumptions, and the rules that we are going to put in place if this implementation plan, when this implementation plan is fully developed. Finally, we want to have feedback sessions and feedback sessions on the tools that we're developing, not only on this, but on LCAP and C3SP. We need to have an integration of all those plans. And finally, the balanced school site and central budgets are going to be presented to the school board, and I have to say, my goal is not by June 30th, as board members have related, where you have no time to deliberate. My goal is to have it to you by May 30th, so that we have a full month to debate it. But you will know all the priorities being developed in real time between now and May 30th. This slide just suggests the reviews, the pieces that I've talked about, empowering schools and so forth. This is in your documentation. On the right side is a proposal to remove ADA, to provide base full-time equivalent staffing and discretionary budgeting for site-based management of funds and FTE. 88% of the funds are committed to be allocated to the school sites and central office services to the sites. Supplemental funds for equitable distribution, concentration funds for environmental factors will be included. A deliberate process of engagement that includes the single site plan, the core waiver, and LCAP. And finally, a commitment to you that school site flexibility and decision-making over spending choices is alive and well. We've already begun this work, including as our student board directors have mentioned, engagement with the All-City Council, with the Principals Advisory Committee, with regions, and in this meeting here. Does everybody like the plan? No. Does this superintendent close off discussion? No. The important part of this is for me to model the kind of engagement that leads to better decisions.
If you'd like to make a call, please hang up.
So This is our February short-term deadline. The intention for me is to develop a project management team, a design team, as well as an accountability team, and provide you regular board meeting by board meeting updates of our progress, and also the questions and concerns that are raised by our principals and our community. Thank you very much.